Okay, so I want to I want you back. I want to just acknowledge those of you who have come alongside this evening for this second session as we move into the second week. So this week you'll be getting different set of emails from me, videos. You'll be getting some information from me that you'll be required to read. You're not required, but if you took on the taken on the course, you should read it. And at the very least, I hope that you're taking this information and you're putting it in a folder, because some of it is quite a bit much to palette at one time, but I guarantee you it'll come in handy in the future. So if you don't resonate with something, just keep it moving. And then the spirit will lead you back to that and you'll get a deeper revelation on that. So I want to, anybody got any comments about anything before we get started this evening in regards what last week was about? Any comments about the video? Raise your hand and I will bring you in. If you got a comment, if you want to type it, you can do that. All right. Marcella, you have the mic. You can.
Yes, I thank you for that video. It was very empowering and enlightening, and it answered a lot of my questions that I've always thought of. And it's definitely a rewatch because I rewind and watched again, rewind and watched again, and wrote down some words I never heard of before. And it was very empowering. And I
Okay.
plan on watching it
Awesome.
a
Well, did you
lot
watch?
more.
So the email that went out yesterday morning, I believe. Did you? There was two. There was the original video that had to do with the Nubian influence on Egypt, and then there was a second video I added on
The,
yesterday.
the Kemetic
Yeah,
center guy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did watch that one also.
So here's what you guys are gonna find. I've been in this for a very long time. When I started studying, there was no YouTube, so I actually had to read tons of books and things that it's different when you can have someone explain something to you. So a lot of what he's doing, I have the or the others are doing, I have the capability of doing, but I really don't have the time and I don't have the need to take ownership. My goal is to like a college professor is to lead you to the information. You read the information. We can have intelligent discussions. You can expand your toolbox with information and knowledge. But at the end of the day, what this course is about, it's an introductory course, and it is not intended to make you a cometologist or an Egyptologist. It is not intended for you to change your attire, take on a Kemetic name. All those things are not really required of you. But if you feel led, and at some point I'll tell my story as to why I felt led to begin to incorporate the name that I have chosen or that has chosen me. Um,
Leader.
right, right, right. Shh. But
What's
here's
up?
what he said. I'm gonna have to mute you. I see. You know, so, but sometimes when groups are sharing this kind of information, they're proselytizing or trying to get you to change. But I want you to receive this information, rub it up against what you have. And it's not so much being knowledgeable of this information, but using the information as part of your transformation. Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living is all about transforming you back into your original design. Many of us have been inside of the religious conversation for such a long time, and we've come to find that inside the religious conversation, you got the right words, you're doing the right thing, perhaps, but you're not getting the right outcomes. And a lot of it's tied to the adulterants that has been tied to our spiritual system, in particular, Christianity. So I'm not ashamed to be a Christian or have had a Christian experience in no way. And so that's why I preface my videos, everything that I'm doing. If you're coming on here because you are just done with Christianity or you've never had an experience with Christianity and you're just going with other people say, this is not the place for you. This channel, your involvement with what I teach is from the perspective that we truly believe that the path we were born onto was the right path. although it's been adulterated. And so we're taking what belongs to us back. And Christianity belongs to us. And we have to uncover the truth of Christianity, have to uncover the unadulterated seed. And when we get back to that unadulterated seed, we're going to have a more powerful understanding of the mystery book that we read. We're going to understand the scriptures, and they'll take on a whole new light. So I'm really helping you to understand why the Cometians, the Kemetau, the Nubians, the Cushites, all those individuals that were civilizations that were up and down that Nile Valley and the entire continent. Because when you look at the history of the continent and the migration patterns, you will find the what we call the Neteru, or the principles or the deities also have a corresponding one on the west coast of Africa. On the yeah, when you go to the west, the Ivory Coast, when you go to all of those countries that down through along that Kenya, Nubia, all those places, they have a philosophy, a spiritual system that mirrors that of the Kemetic system. And what they've come to find is because of the migration pattern that all those truths moved across the continent, and they may have taken on different names because of culture. So when we understand that we may be talking a different language, but we may be saying the same thing. So even in Christianity, it's talking a different language, but it's saying the same thing, but it's adulterating. It's always more powerful to understand the true concept and the words that was used versus when you transliterate something. So I really hope that you guys can grasp that my intentions is not to change anyone's belief system, but to enhance it and to move from having a belief to a knowing. You know, there's something very different. To believe something is very different than to know something. Usually, when we are challenged, we will just rear back into I believe. All I know is I believe, but we can't defend the faith. But even Paul, when you look at the New Testament, he talks so that we need to be able to contend the faith, to contend that what you know, um, to master the life situation by using that what you know to master that thing. Awesome. Renee says, was it called Christianity back then? Okay, so when you look at 325 AD, and that's at the 325 AD. So that's 3 centuries after the supposed walking of Christ upon the earth. You had the Council of Nice, the Council of Nice, or sometimes you'll see it as the Council of Nicaea, Nicea. And here you have Rome, or you have Constantine, the emperor, convening a a conclave of all the Christian, the bishops, and all those who were in Christendom, or was in this faith called Christianity. Now, the faith of Christianity evolved from, let's say, at 33 AD, 300 years later. Is not until almost 300 years later, 100 years later, you start seeing documentation about Christ. Now, the only thing that's difficult about that, unlike today, when we see documentation, we can trace it back because we have all kind of recording mechanisms and things. People can attest to things all over the world. But back then, they didn't. If something can happen in a town and it may spread out, but like if anything that is carried by word of mouth, it can get expanded. And so when we look at 325 AD, first of all, in the Bible, it says they weren't called Christians, they were called those in the way. I think that's in the book of Acts when they were called those were in the way, in the way of Christ, the Christ consciousness. But to be called a Christian was to be like be called a derogatory word, the N word. So it wasn't anything positive. And then it evolved when Constantine chose to make Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. And so what he did was he brought all these different factions inside of what was considered forms of Christian. He had the Eastern, the Orthodox Christians, the Eastern Christians. He brought them all from across. He convened, and if you read the Council of Nicaea, of all the bishops that he summoned, most of them didn't show up. But the ones that showed up was the ones that was instrumental in determining what the national religion of Christianity would look like. So then you have, that's why we have the Catholic Church at Rome, because it was the Church of Rome. And then when you study the history of the Catholic Church, it has a really dark past associated with it. Even if you look at the recent history, 500 years ago, you had almost six, yeah, 500 years ago, you had Luther, Martin Luther. He charged the church with the Catholic Church with gross malpractice. He said that the priests were selling you could buy your way into heaven, or you could buy your way out of hell with penances and things like that. And he put, it's called 95 edicts on the door of the church. And that's where there was a protest going on. And see, and that's where we get the term Protestant, the protesters of the church. And that evolved into those of us who are Baptist, Lutheran, uh, um, what else? All the denominations, they are a offshoot of Catholicism, and Catholicism is a direct offshoot of what the Romans got from the Greeks, and the Greeks got from the Egyptian or Kemetic priests at the city of Alexandria, that's northern Egypt, or North Africa, and in Memphis, the Memphite. So he took all this information, put it together, and they took the spiritual system of the Commissions of the Nile Valley Civilization, which they did not call Christianity, but there are certain things we're going to talk about, like the Christ, the Christ. The when you come forth, the coming forth of the mummy is the Christ. You've been wrapped in the grave clothes. The story of Lazarus. When you look at Lazarus, Lazarus. When you look at that term, Lazarus is really Osar, and I mean Osiris, and then it's really Asar, coming back to life. Asar was banished, and he was found. His sisters, two sisters, were advocating for Jesus, the Christ, to come, and he waited 3 days, and he raised them from the dead. And Asar represents being raised from the dead, transformation. So all of us die daily. So that was a long way around your question, but let me pull you in, Renee. And we're going to get started here. So this is good. This is good. All right, Renee, your hand is free up. You good. You can. Okay, I asked you to unmute. Okay,
Yes, sir.
awesome. So did I kind of answer your question? I know I gave you some value added there.
In the long way, yeah, yes, sir, you did.
Okay, awesome, good. Because inside of your question probably was another question from somebody else. So awesome. Is there any other questions before I move further into tonight's matter of fact, I would like to ask you a question, and I'm going to put everybody's hands down. And then I'm going to ask the question, and you can raise your hand. That way, if you want to respond, you can. I'm not going to force anyone to respond openly. But if you could raise your hand, if you want to share what drew you perhaps to the course, or if there's a question that you have that maybe you couldn't ask your pastor, or you couldn't ask your Sunday school teacher, you raise your hand. What got you here this week? And Renee, that's correct. The Christ, K-R-S-T. And that's where we get the term Christ from. And the term K-R-S-T, the Christ, comes from the Gnostics, the Gnosis, those who studied the science. So they were called Gnostics, or Gnosis also. All right, let me see here. Okay, no hands go up. One thing I want to share with you all, even though this is a webinar, it's really a course that I like interaction. Um, and if you are afraid to ask a question, you need to deal with that. And I'm not that's not a judgment, but I want you to know, okay, I got a question, but why won't I raise my hand? If you want to ask the question directly to me, you could type it in you can go over my name and chat directly to me. Or if you have my cell number, 708-544-4946. If I see something come through there, I know that you don't want to be identified, and I will respect that, but I'll address that question. So 708, I'll put that in the chat here. Um, For those of you who are joining tonight, my facilitator, actually, she tried to get in, but for some reason she couldn't. And I believe it was just ordained for her not to get in because her brother was murdered on yesterday. Yeah, that's the V, Veronica Lynette Harris. We call her V. Her brother was murdered. So that's what's going on with her. But we are going to move forward this evening. All right. So I don't have any questions. I mean, there's no respondees to my question. Oh, there's a hand. Okay.
Yes, I had my hand up a little bit.
Okay, good deal.
Why I'm here is because I always, well, let me just start with the church. I would go to church on Sunday, leave church, be all hyped doing, service and singing and the word. Then I would leave church and would still feel nothing. It just didn't stay with me. So I kind of felt that they weren't teaching us how to think, that our thoughts are really what matters in life. And it was just something, within me that led me, I guess it was the spirit that led me, that wanted, that knew, that put that in me, I guess, that I needed more. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know, how did my ancestors worship? What was their spirituality like? Did they read the Bible? And also knowing that the Bible is only, what, 2,000 years old?
Mm-hmm.
So, and society or civilization goes back farther than 2,000 years. So how did they worship? What did they worship? That's what I was curious about. So that's what brought me here.
Awesome. Good, good. Okay. Thank you for sharing and being courageous and raising your hand. Looking back down through here before I get started. Okay. Okay. Cheryl, you have the mic.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. What brought me here was the notion of being spiritual rather than religious, because the root of religion is to relegate someone to something or some system or something like that. And to me, that just put me back into the mind of being in bondage, enslaved, and I did not want that. So I wanted to know more about the spirituality of my ancestors.
Awesome. And
That's what brought me here.
spirituality is, you're a science teacher, so spirituality is science. It's
Yes,
really understanding the inner workings of creation.
yes.
And one thing about religion, when you look at the word religion, it's a Latin word, religare. Like you say, it also means to tie back to tie
Okay.
back. And so religion actually ties you to a particular thought, uh,
Mm,
and usually religion is more of your cultural expression of a truth. Now,
mm,
God says that the traditions of man makes the word of God of no effect. So
yeah.
your cultural, your egotistical, your physical self can really make the word of God, which is true, of no effect. Example,
Mhm.
many people don't even choose to be, let me talk specifically. Many African American, many black men don't choose to follow the way of Christianity because there's still some genetic anger there based on what they are aware of how Christianity was used to subjugate a whole people group
Yeah.
to being second to no class. And
Mhm.
so then what happened was the message of the gospel was preached so strongly that it was able to make inroads, because what did they preach? In order to go to heaven, the only way to heaven was through Jesus Christ, or
Mhm.
to avoid hell. And there's two reasons I find that Christians are Christians. They're either three reasons. They're either Christians for they want the assurance that they're going to heaven, escapism. Two, they want fire insurance that they avoid hell. And three, a lot of people are Christians for what in this day and age, because if you look at the gospel of the average preacher today, it's about materialism. When you look at if you can grab hold of some of the preachings from the 70s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, late 80s, they were still preaching about being in right relationship through behavior with God. And now the whole message is many of the preachers have taken on, and I chuckle at it because when you listen to their message, they're actually are life coaches, personal development specialists. A couple of reasons for that, because they are seeing the driver is what the people want, and the people have been released from the pews, and they have been introduced to so many more different concepts that now even the average preacher knows something about the law of attraction, and because all those things are tied into to the Bible, these are principles that we need to learn how to practice
Mhm.
also. Okay, yeah, thanks, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right, Renee.
I agree with Cheryl. That's exactly why I'm here as far as spirituality. It got to a point for me that's what I kept saying to myself. It got to that point, I guess I was about 49, and I kept saying, I don't want religion. I want spirituality. I didn't even know where it was coming from. I just knew it inside me. That's what it was saying. I was having this conversation with myself. I don't want religion. I want spirituality. And that's why I asked about the Christianity, because I think for me, sometimes, I know some real things happened when I was in the non-traditional, in the traditional church, in
Mhm.
terms of even through the spirit, right?
Mhm.
I do
Right.
think some things happen. However, I think what's holding me back sometimes when I hear Christianity, to your point, it's like so many things. When I hear the word Christianity, I don't think of spirituality.
Mhm.
So it makes me back up, because I'm like, but not that I'm against that per se. It's just that I don't connect the two at this point for me myself now.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
Mhm.
Because you're moving into another space, and it's really a thing of evolving, and we have to learn to come to know that we evolve into this. um, our we move from what we thought we knew into what we want to know, and eventually we get to know, because the Bible says, seek and you shall find. That means that there's more than you already know, and if you knock, the door will be open. To not be saying out, it's more, it's got to be more, and there's an open sesame, and this thing evolves and opens up to you. Awesome. So let me move into what I want to start off with tonight. I wanted to introduce you to the cosmology. The cosmology, it means the story of creation, and the Egyptians, or the Kemetics, the Nile Valley Civilization. Now, the reason why I say Nile Valley Civilization, because I really want you all, don't get caught up in the hype of thinking that it's all about Egypt. Actually, Egypt was at the lower end of the Nile, and the things that you heard it said, it all runs downhill. So the knowledge came from up high, up north, which is south. It came from south. And when you go down the Nile south, which is the longest running river
Nubia.
world,
Oh,
you get to Nubia.
I didn't know I was unmuted. Sorry.
I got a co-facilitator tonight. Yes. That's all right. That's all right. So that's good. So I'll help you guys out. Let me see if I got anybody over there that's unmuted. Okay, because I got some good students there. Okay, so we have to understand that the fascination with Egypt is there's some deeper truths to be found. They didn't just appear out of nowhere. So you got to go upstream, and as you go upstream, you will hit the Ethiopia, you will hit the Sudan, you will hit Nubia, you will hit Kush, you will get to Lake Tamari, which is the British named, where the Great Falls, where the Nile starts, down near Uganda, or up near Uganda, and you'll find that is where it's believed that all mankind started, the oldest fossils. Now, here's my perfect belief, that all man was black. All mankind was black at one time. If you want some information, there's an individual by the name of Bradley, a white brother by the name of Bradley, forgot his first name, and he wrote a book, The Iceman Heritage. The Iceman Heritage. And his thesis is that at some point in time, there were a group of people, knowing all people were Africans, that was caught on the other side of the glacial. There was a catastrophic event, and they got caught on the other side of the ice, and the ice is called Iceman Heritage. And they, because of the environment, it changed them. If there's no sun, then the skin lightened, because there was no need to process the sun. And if there was no clothing, then you grew hair. And so that's why you find, historically, you find those who are of Western or European descent are hairier than those who are of the African descent. And then when you look at the phenotype of the African, a traditional African, you will find that their hair is somewhat different. You will find that their nostrils are different. Their whole phenotype is different, and it was conducive to the environment. So it's not that black skin is better than white skin, but it's more conducive for a certain environment. White skin is more conducive for a certain environment. And so it's we are just designed to move forward in life and not die out. Okay, good. All right. See, I think I got a new message down here. Okay, Dorothy says she's looking for more understanding on this learning about the source within. And that's a great thing to be seeking after, because the word of God tells us that when you even look at the historical Jesus, he talks about the kingdom being within. And here's the kingdom, to know that God resides in you. And when you turn in and reside in it, then you can say, I and the Father one. When you really actualize that, move it from your head to your heart, you're going to be able to do some very different things than a person who have not come to that realization. But you got a lot of stuff to unpack in order to really embrace that. You got to unpack years of programming at the subconscious level, that we are not worthy, that we have to perform. If we have most of us had early on in Christianity, we had a performance-based relationship with God. I had to do this in order, well, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, because if I do that, it impacts my relationship with God. So we got to really move away from what is known as a sin consciousness. Awesome. Good. All right. So let me show you this video, and we'll come back. Have some more questions. So I want to share with you this video. I don't know why my Zoom is okay. 1 second. Okay, we'll do it like this. I'll move this over here, and then I'm gonna share my screen. Host, okay. All right, I'm gonna share my screen, and I hope you get to see this video.
This video is brought to you by Captivating History. Before we begin, I would like to mention that the ancient Egyptians did not have a unitary creation.
Let me see.
the stories of how the world came to be vary across.
Do something a little different here. Let me see if I can get this to show up larger, so that way you can get more of it. Because I inadvertently swiped my assignment, what I had set up for you tonight, and when I came in, it ended up. Now you guys tell me, how can you see this? Let me see what's happening here.
This video is brought to you by Captivating.
Can somebody chime in and tell me if that's coming in?
I can hear it, but I can't see it.
You can hear it, but you can't see it. Okay, so let me do this. I gotta grab it another way. See if I can find it. So I want you guys to see this, and I call myself putting it into a, let me see here. Let me go take that away and see if I can bring it up here. Let's see if I can find it here right quick. I want you all to see that. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, maybe that'll work. No results found. Let me see here. See if I can bring it up this way. Hope I didn't put it in there, or did I? Oh, no, that's not it. Well, give me a second, guys. Let me find this. Dum. So while we're here, we have our own YouTube channel. It is Oasis Spiritual Center, and these are some of my links but I'm looking for my video that I had up earlier. 1 second. Bear with me. See if I can find it. This over here. I'll see if I can find it this way. Nope, that's not working that way. I am so apologetic for this. Let me see if I can find that name off of the document. One second. Let me do this. That's why it helped to have a second person to help me out. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the share and then see if I can pull it up. And if not, we're just gonna move on. Let me see here. Let me see. YouTube. Okay. Because I wanted to share with you the 5 creation myths, and hopefully it pops up here. See if the one that I wanted is in here. There it is. Okay.
What are you doing on your phone? I'm sorry, I left a gentleman alone in my apartment, so I'm tracking him to make sure he leaves. You're tracking.
This video is brought to you by Captivating History.
Share. Can you guys hear it?
Before we begin, I would like to mention that the ancient Egyptians
Yes, I can hear it.
So now I'm
creation.
going to grab it for
The
you.
stories of how the world came to be vary across time and also differ according to location. Therefore,
Okay, can you see that? Can you guys see that?
I don't see anything. I see you.
this video will
Okay, you don't
include
see
5
anything,
Egyptian
so
mythology
I need to
creation
do-
stories from 4 different locations. Creation story number 1. Atum creates the world.
Hold on a second.
Location,
Are you the
Heliopolis.
only? You can't see anything.
No, I can't see anything, but I can hear it clearly. I just can't see anything. I see you.
There's nothing but
Let me
new,
see.
nothing but the waters of new. And the waters of new were formless, and they were dark. And from new, from
Can
the
you see it
void of
now?
the waters,
Yes.
Okay,
the
good.
first of the gods.
Yes, yes.
Everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. Do I get a pass? So we got to
Yes.
start it over. There you go.
The ancient Egyptians did not have a unitary
Volume
creation.
good?
No, the volume is not good.
They vary across time.
That's better.
Also differ according to location. Therefore, this video will include 5 Egyptian mythology creation stories from 4 different locations. Creation story number 1. Atum creates the world. Location, Heliopolis. Once there was nothing but new, nothing but the waters of new. And the waters of new were formless, and they were dark. And from new, from the void of the waters, sprang Atum, the first of the gods, the creator of the gods, and all that is. Atum wished for bodily pleasure, so he pleasured himself. And from his seed sprang Shu, who is the air, and Tepnut, who is the light. Shu and Tepnut were alone with Atum, alone on the primordial hill in the waters of Nu, and they became separated from one another. This caused Atum great grief, for he loved his children. Atum sent his eye to look for Shu and Tepnut, and while his eye was gone from him, Atum replaced it with another, greater eye. Soon enough, Shu and Tepnut returned with Atum's first eye. The first eye saw that Atum had supplanted it with another, greater eye, and it became jealous. Atum took pity on the first eye in its anger and distress, and took his first eye, placing it firmly in his forehead. With this eye, he could see all that he had created, and all that had and will happen in heaven and upon the earth, and in Tuat, the underworld of the dead. When Shu and Tepnut returned, Atum was so overjoyed to see his children again that he wept, and from his tears sprang human beings. But there was nothing else yet in creation but the people and the primordial hill in the void of the waters. Much work had yet to be done. Therefore, Atum, Shu, and Tepnut began the work of creating the world and making a place for people to live in. Shu and Tepnut came together in love, and from them sprang Geb, who is the surface of the earth, and Nut, who is the sky. From the union of Geb and Nut came Isis, Osiris, Nephthys, and Set. Shu and Tepnut, who are air and light, separate Geb and Nut, and together they hold up the sky. Creation story number 2. Ra and the 8 gods create the world. Location, Hermopolis. Before all things, there were 8 who are the 4 and their consorts. These were Nun and Naunet, Ha and Hauhet, Kuk and Kauket, Amen and Almanet, And these together were water, unendingness, darkness, and the unseen, which is the air or wind. The four gods had the head of frogs, and their consorts the heads of snakes. Together, the 8 gods hatched out from the primeval mound that stood within the void of the waters. The 8 gods made the Nile and caused it to have its flood time and its receding. They made the lotus grow out of the waters, and when the lotus opened, inside was a scarab beetle. The scarab beetle transformed itself into a divine child, and this child was the god Ra. The lotus is thus the birthplace of the sun, who is Ra, and the lotus is the eye of Ra. When the child Ra wept, his tears created human beings. From Ra's mouth came all the other gods. Therefore, from the 8 came the lotus, and from the lotus came Ra. And from Ra came all there is, both humans and divine beings, and the whole world. Seeing that all had been made and all was done, the 8 gods died and went to the underworld. Ra and the other gods remained to rule over creation. Creation story number 3. The myth of the cosmic egg. Location, Hermopolis. Before the world was made, there was nothing but the primeval mound, and a goose came to the mound. This goose was named the Great Cackler. The goose laid an egg upon this mound, and when the time was right, the god Ra burst forth from the egg in the form of a bird of light. Ra then went on to create all that is. Some say it was not a goose that laid this egg, but an ibis, which is the god Thoth. Those who believe this say that the god Thoth arose uncreated from the nothingness that was, and the 8 gods are his souls. Together, Thoth and the 8 gods made the world. Creation story number 4. Ptah creates the world. Location, Memphis. In the nothingness that was before all of creation, first there was Ptah, who was also Nu, the void of the waters. And from the heart and tongue of Ptah sprang Atum, the first of the gods. And from the seed of Atum came Shu and Tephu, who are air and sky. From the seed of Atum and from the words of Atum came the 9 gods. But Ptah was the mightiest of all, above all other gods. He was the one who first created the gods, and was the one from whom all other things came to be. Ptah created Egypt and divided her into her nomes. He established the temples of the gods and commanded where and when the gods should be worshipped. Ptah created the souls of all things, giving them their ka that they might live. Ptah created animals and plants and all good things that are for the use of people upon the earth. Creation story number 5. Khnum creates the world. Location, Elephantine. In the beginning, there was Khnum. Khnum wished to create, so he made the gods, and it was he who fashioned the egg from which sprang the sun. Khnum also made the earth and everything that is on it. He made the Nile River with its floods, and he made the sea, and he made fish to swim in the waters. He made animals of every kind, cattle and sheep, lions and crocodiles. Khnum also made the birds to fly in the sky. Khnum put many useful things in the earth, stone to build with, along with beautiful gems. He made trees, flowers, and all manner of plants and fruit for his creatures to use for food. Then Khnum wished to make people, so he took clay and threw it on his potter's wheel. He spun the wheel and shaped the clay, and from the clay Khnum made human beings. First, he made their blood and bones. Then he gave them skin and hair, lungs to breathe with, a stomach for food, and genitals for begetting children. He gave them hands that they may do useful things, and legs and feet for walking and running. Khnum made all the different kinds of people that walk upon the earth, and set them in their own lands, and gave them their own languages to speak. And to the peoples of the different lands, he gave many gifts, and taught them to make useful things that they might trade with their neighbors. Because of Khnum, the world was a good place to live and prosper. There you have it, 5 Egyptian mythology creation stories explained. If you want to discover more tales, check out our new book, Egyptian Mythology, Captivating Egyptian Myths of Egyptian Gods, Goddesses, and Legendary Creatures. Also, if you haven't already gotten your free mythology ebook bundle, get Creating the World.
Okay, good. So what I wanted to say, a couple things. First, you can formulate your questions if you got questions. But whenever you are hearing our stories being told, you have to keep your antenna up. They do a good job of presenting a general concept, but one thing I want you to know, or I want to ask you, true or false, did the Egyptians have gods? Correct, false. They didn't have gods. They had netters or netteru. Netter, N-T-R or N-E-T-C-H-E-R is plural for deity or principle. The European called it a god. So the Egyptians, the Kemetians, the Nile Valley Civilizations did not use the term God. First thing I want you guys to be familiar with. Okay, good. I thought I had a question. The second thing I want you to know that you should realize that just like they show here that the Nile Valley civilization had 5 different stories depicting creation. The Christian Bible has 2 different versions. Genesis chapter 1 is a version. Genesis chapter 2 is another version. In the Bible where you hear the story of the potter's wheel, did you remember seeing the picture of the guy who was, let me see if I could find him in here. Okay, good. I found him and I want to show him to you. This person right here, are you seeing that?
Nope.
You're not seeing that, okay? Are you, let me see something. Are you seeing it now?
Nope.
Nada.
Are you seeing it now?
Nope. Go back to whatever you did.
Are you seeing it now?
Nope.
We see you.
You see me. So let me see. Start share screen. You see it now?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
You-
Nope. Nope.
You don't see it now?
Nope. See you?
We see you.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a nice way to say that.
Yeah, it is. So I'm going to not even try it, okay?
That's
Good. So we couldn't get that, so I'm not gonna.
okay, so now we can see it.
You see that?
Yes,
Yes.
that now. Yeah.
You see this? What is
Yeah.
it? Describe this. Describe. Can you see my cursor moving around?
Yep.
Yeah.
Describe this here. What is this person? How would you describe what you see?
Well, to me, it sort of looks like one of those zodiac figures where it's a goat and a man body. Kind of sort of.
Is that a goat?
That is a
Well,
goat.
I
It looks like a goat. Wait a minute.
like a goat has got a goat or a ram is some.
Is a goat and a ram the same thing?
No.
So goat.
Now hold up. Now you talking to the science teacher? No.
Right, and you're correct. And so here's the point I'm making here is that a goat and a ram is not the same thing. So if you were, it is important that you know what it is, right? To be able to differentiate. So this is a ram.
Okay.
Somebody say it's one of them. It's one of those zodiac things.
Yeah, the zodiac. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So this is a zoo type.
Okay.
When we talk about what we call the zodiac things,
Yeah.
is the Greek name for the astrological constellations that the Nile Valley civilization was able to chart. And so here's what you see. So once you learn to tie the astrological signs, so I know that sign, it is a what? What did you say that is?
Look
Around.
like it look like a ram.
It is a ram, right? It looks like it must be. So it's a ram. So that tells me that it has something to do with the age of the ram or the age of Aries.
Aries, yeah.
Okay.
So anytime you read about the priest of Canum, I believe is the name, it's talking of you're going to see them depicted with the ram head, and that's probably because they came on the scene, or this story evolved during the age of the ram. So here's a major decoder. It tells you that, so when you see the ram here and you see the lion somewhere else, there's two different ages perhaps telling the same story. But from that, what we will call from that astrological um, um, constellation.
Okay.
Does that help? Now,
Yeah.
this ram figure, if you on some of the temples, you see this figure sitting at a potter's wheel, and what do you think it's doing?
Making people.
Making people. Can you give me a biblical reference to that story?
Being on the potter's wheel. I don't know the
Yes, right.
place
Being on the potter's wheel. That comes right from here. And sometimes people will say, well, it's easy to say something comes from something, that you can make something that is existence come from something that was, then that tells you something. That tells you that what exists, there's something greater than what exists.
Yeah.
So my whole goal was to get back to the beginning.
Yeah.
To understand, why do they use certain phrases? Why it's like, example, during the time of Egypt, or the Hebrews being in Egypt, you saw the Ten Commandments, the Cecil DeMille. It had the golden calf, because that was during the time of Taurus, and Moses was taking them away from the time of Taurus, and what comes next? Aries. And so he was introducing them to the age of Aries, or that's when you have, after Moses, we have, I believe, after Moses comes Abraham, right? Do I get that right? No, Abraham comes before Moses. Wait a minute, let me think. You got Genesis, and Abraham is the Genesis.
Before Moses.
Yes.
Right. Now, the one thing you need to know, that the astrological signs go backwards. The constellations drift backwards. So, so if you go from Moses, you go to from the sign of what is the sign of Moses?
Taurus.
Which is the
bull.
Which also can be considered
the calf, the golden calf.
Then you go backwards to Aries, and now you backwards in the time of Abraham. And where do you find where do you find the story of what's the sign for Aries?
The ram in the bush.
And what did Abraham, what relationship did the ram have to Abraham?
It was the ram in the bush. It saved him from sacrificing Isaac.
Right. So here you see the sign type says a lot. So let's go backwards one more. What do you think? What comes before Aries, or the
Pisces.
And then
the two fishes.
Who ushered in that conversation?
Oh wait, who ushered in?
Who ushered in that conversation? And what did he tell them that he was going to make?
Oh, fishes of men.
Fishes of men.
Okay. And then after the Pisces is what?
Capricorn? No, Aquarius.
So then Jesus told his disciples, remember when they said, what will we know? How will we know the sign of the age? How we know? And he says, you will see a man carrying an urn in the street. Follow him into the house. What house? The house of Aries. But now that's been adulterated, because in the days of old, up until anytime you saw water being drawn, who was at the well?
Women.
So now you see the influence of of perhaps the fathers of the gospel, like Constantine and all those guys, where they took the liberty to change the the person's gender.
Personal,
Because
yeah.
Patriarchal.
they did not take what they call it
Misogynistic.
misogynistic.
Yeah.
That means that they don't care or have low regard for women. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so in the Eurocentric worldview, they have a low regard for women. Even with their creation story, their women is nowhere involved.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite creation stories of the Kemetic. How many Kemetic stories are we aware of?
5.
5. My favorite, first of all, one of your assignment would be like they talked about Heliopolis, Hermiolopis. Those are not Kemetic names. Those are Greek names. If
Mhm.
anybody can find out what's the name of those cities before they were called that by the Greeks. But one of mine is the Memphite story. The Memphite story says there was none, and inside of none there was none and Nunet. None and Nunet was the male and female principle of divine masculinity, divine femininity. In the beginning, darkness, none, and then they procreated, and it says they created, and there was a hill. It says a hill appeared out of the water. When a woman gets pregnant, uh, eventually where is the baby at before you know it?
It's in your belly.
In the womb.
Oh,
That's your womb first.
right, womb, right. That's an adult answer right there.
Oh, see.
Because when we were kids, we thought the baby was in the belly, but the baby's in the womb. And inside the womb, is the baby just in the womb chilling, or is it inside of something else?
It's inside the water. Inside the
Water. Okay. So when we talk about Nunet and Nun and Nunet, it represents the waters of creation. The baby's inside the water, and ultimately that baby that can't be seen begins to come forward. And what is the sign that you're pregnant beyond just having symptomology? You can have symptoms, but when do you really know you're pregnant?
When you
when your
get
cycle
bigger,
stops.
Okay, that's a good sign. But when does everybody know you're pregnant?
when your
Start showing.
belly, it rises.
When they see that bump, when they see that heel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then in the Memphite story, it says the heel came forth, and then from the heel came Ptah. And so Ptah is likened to Adam into this world. And then he speaks it all into being. Just what is Adam's responsibility? Adam, the man, and Adam, the woman. But the Bible just talked about Adam, the man. Okay. But the divine essence of Adam represents a male and a female. And they were given the responsibility to do what? To name every animal.
Oh, name every animal. Yeah.
So what was brought before them, perhaps in their imagination, what they saw, they named it, and it manifested. See, when we really understand the Kemetic stories and the mythologies, it really helps you understand what we call new thought. New thought is not new thought from the perspective of the Europeans that in the early 18 in the late 1800s, when they had these individuals. And I'm gonna teach on New Thought and the evolution of New Thought, because they never take it back to Egypt. They'll take it back to Greece, and they'll say the Greeks were the fathers of great thought. But everything that the Greeks have is a copy of something they got from Kemet. So tonight I wanted to introduce you to this story. So this whole course is just introductory. And so we could go deeper into each aspect, but I just want to introduce you so you can have a well-rounded understanding of how it all evolved and where we get it from. And at some point, I'll go deeper on some things. Some things I won't go deeper on because they are not relevant have to go into. Anything anybody want to say before we wrap up tonight? Because we're right. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I want to say that, you know, what came into my mind as the gentleman was speaking is like they always have to put in some of their mess. Now,
Mhm.
The seed of
because
men
now
know words about
my
you.
story was the evolution from apes. They didn't have that going on at the time. They just
Say what? Say that. Say it again.
the one of the myths, or one of them, was where he was speaking about the Egyptians, quote unquote, but then at the lower part of the screen he had the evolution of man from apes.
Right.
So that's contradictory. That's a mess. They always got to be putting some mess on
Right.
things.
So they're making it fit their world view.
Yeah. So then a person would see that if they don't really know, then
Mhm.
they'll be saying, "Oh yeah, that's just how it is."
Right. So that's why the word says, study to show yourself approved, a workman who need not be ashamed, rightly
Oh,
divide the word of truth.
I'm gonna be
So
doing it.
whenever your captor gives you your story, know that the story isn't given to you for your evolution. It's like the fox telling the rabbit the story. Ultimately, that rabbit's going to be eaten by that fox. So good. So I kind of hope this piqued your interest. I hope you got something out of it. This whole week, you're going to get some things. I will be dropping videos in for you, dropping questions out there for you. And I hope on Monday that we can convene a really powerful time together, really answering some of your questions. So here's what I really want. I want you to send your questions ahead of time so I can formulate them, so I can do some research if need be. Because one thing I don't find the need to know is have all this stuff at my disposal, but I know where to find everything. Okay? Yeah, because some of the stuff I don't have to have in my head. I just have access to it. I leave space for God to show up in my head. Facts and things like that, I know where to find them if I have a powerful app that I use.
Of the 9 gods. But Batam was the mightiest of all. Above all.
All right. So that's all I have for tonight. I pray that something was said that was uplifting and encouraging, and that you can walk away tonight more encouraged, more enthusiastic about learning and expanding. Is there any questions? If there are, just go ahead and raise your hand. Let me see here if there's any questions before we wrap up. Okay.
Question.
Yeah, I'm looking for your hand there.
No, it's lower.
So I know why I can't see it, because I need to stop the share.
Okay.
Okay, good, good. All right, I see your hand.
Okay. I kind of like the story in the video better than those 5 stories.
Oh, most definitely.
Sorry, in which video?
In the one you sent us in the
Yeah.
email.
Oh, that's what I. Yeah,
It's in there. You probably just don't know it, but that story that he tells is one of those stories.
The first one.
Okay, right, and he goes into detail.
What?
He shows you each one of the individuals who were birthed from who came, what principles came from who. You have the Ennead and you had the Ogdode. The Ogdode is the 8, and the Ennead is the 9. And when we look at the tree of life, you find all of those on there. And the tree of life has 9. There's 9 numbers or 9 stations which make up the tree of life. And 9 represents what? Nobody remembers? Okay, A, endings, B, completions.
1 is ending. 7. One of them. 7 is wait. Is one of them ending?
Don't take
Oh wait.
9 is completion.
And
Yes.
7 is ending. Right. See, you had the truth come to you right off the tip of your tongue, but you kind of question yourself there, Renee. Is 7 is endings correct? And in between an ending and a completion is a new beginning, which is a new opportunity to see if you can master that. And if you master it inside that new beginning, then you have a completion. You have an ending, then you have a trial. It's like the class is over, and now we're going to have the test. Okay, and the test is life. And if you pass the test, you complete the course. And if you don't complete the course, you get a do-over. Ain't nothing wrong with getting a do-over as long as you want to get it right. Can you
Do you
send?
have any videos on that? The Tree of Life and those 9 numbers?
Yep, we're gonna get this week. I'll introduce you to that. Can you send me some books on this? I will go on Amazon. Dorothy. Okay. So one of the things I want to caution you guys about, everything that I share, you don't have to get all the books, because this information that I'm sharing with you is not so much as that it's kind of like a history class, but the power isn't in the history as much as understanding the mystery behind the history. Like some people would think, okay, so I change my name, I wear a dashiki, or I wear a priestly robe. I take on the culture of 4,000, 10,000 years ago. But no, you got to be relevant to right now. So it's the thought that I want you to learn to grasp hold to. I have thousands of books in my library back home that I'm get here, and I wonder why I've just been keeping them, because they're just source documents that I can, as I begin to teach these classes and open a school, I have these documents that I will recommend to you. And there are certain books I want to tell you that you have to be careful whose stuff you're reading, because some of the stuff is written from a very Western mindset, and they can't grasp the truth of was really being revealed. Like the Egyptologists thought, and most Christians will tell you, well, the Egyptians had a bunch of gods. They had no gods. They didn't call themselves gods. Okay, they had principles. Okay, and so that's important that we know. Well, that's my time, and I thank you for your time, and we're going to get together again real soon. All right. I think I got all the questions. Then that was early, I believe. Tia, if you're still there, you said the sound is going up and down. What is the title? So I will make sure the video gets to you so you can review it. And then Faye said that she learned Latin, which originated in North Africa, and that's so true. The father of the what we say Catholicism is a Black African who suggested Latin as the language for the early church. And so that's interesting. And most people don't even know the founding fathers of Catholicism been depicted as white when they are actually Black Africans. That's good, good, Faye. So that's going to come back around. Awesome. So that's it. That's all I have. It's right at 8:15, and it's been a long day, and I must be on my way. So I appreciate your time tonight, and hope something was said that was uplifting and encouraging. Be blessed and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Okay, stop the recording.